This is Identity at the Center.
Welcome to the Identity at the Center podcast. I'm Jeff, and that's Jim. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Oh, not so bad yourself?
Good. Just so everyone knows, we're having technical difficulties right before we hit record, but we should be fine. I wanted to say, we went to EIC last year and got to meet a lot of super people. Some of those super people came from today's sponsor. They have an open source product, which I found extremely interesting. I mean, I've always been a big open source fan, and that's what's great about our community, man, is the variety and the friendliness of people. And I'm excited, we're going back to EIC again this year. We'll get to interact with people again and interact with this sponsor today.
Yeah, we've got a sponsor spotlight episode today, and we want to thank Evolveum for sponsoring today. So, their support helps make podcasts available to people around the world, and so we certainly appreciate it. You can learn more about them at evolveum.com/IDAC. And don't worry, I'll have links in our show notes so people can check that out. But let me go ahead and introduce our guest today. His name is Pavol Mederly. Sorry, Pavol. He's the interim CPO with Evolveum. Welcome to Identity at the Center, Pavol.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, we're going to learn more about Evolveum today and kind of what you guys do and sort of the space. But let's start with a little about you. Let's learn more about Pavol. How did you get into identity and access management? Is it something that you picked, or did it choose you?
Okay. I would say it chose me, because I was working in university IT since 1991. And at the beginning of the century, identification cards for students and employees had to be issued. So the first complete registry of persons at the university had to be created and regularly synchronized with 24 systems or source systems, ensuring things like data quality, unique identifiers, and so on and so on. So we had to write an in-house solution. That time, didn't even knowing that it's called identity management. Well, I would say, funnily enough, some parts of the solutions are in operation still today, but I hope that they will be decommissioned soon. Because it's quite a nightmare to maintain 25 years old solution.
I hear you. I mean, there's legacy tech, and then there's legacy tech. and universities are very difficult identity and access management environments. I mean, Jim and I have worked with a few different, higher education, scenarios around the world. And, it's almost shockingly complex, because you have students, you have teachers, or faculty, you've got employees, you've got contractors, you've got parents, you've got vendor. Like, there's so many different personas that are part of a university environment that I feel like if you can do IAM in a university environment, that is the tip top from a difficulty scale.
Exactly. You are right. To the point. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Evolveum, because I've been familiar, at least, passing distance with Evolveum for a few years now. And I know that there's a product called midPoint that is an open source, identity governance solution, and maybe other capabilities. But let's start with Evolveum. So if I'm the first time, listening, what the heck is Evolveum? Tell us a little bit about the company.
Okay. So I would start when we were founded. Yeah, we are in business since 2011. So this summer it will be 15 years. Well, me personally, I joined the company almost at the beginning in October that year, and we are open source enthusiasts, I would say, and we have only one product, and it's midPoint, an IGA platform, as we call it.
So that product midPoint, that is the part that is open source. I guess help me understand the difference between Evolveum and midPoint.
Yeah.
If I wanted to go download midPoint, I could go to the website and just download it and read the documentation and run it. And then Evolveum is what provides services extra on top of that. How does that work?
Yeah. Yes. Evolveum is the company, and midPoint is our product. Well, the picture is a little bit more complex, because we as a company created and maintain the product as such, and we support the product. And we have a lot of partners, more than 50, as far as I know, all over the world, that take the product and offer it to their customers and their clients, I would say. So the relationship is, well, quite complex, but I would say fruitful for both parties, because everyone does what they know the best. They know their environment, their country, or their industry vertical, or whatever. So they know how to run projects. They do all those marketing, sales, whatever is needed, project management, and so on. And they do the deployment. And if they have any problem, any issue with the product as such, or when they need some knowledge support or whatever, they ask us. And we are not big company. We have a little bit over 50 employees, and so we can concentrate on the product itself to evolve it, maintain it, bug fix it, document whatever is needed. Well, we have some customers on our own, but the preferred model is go to via our partners.
So I'm always interested in how companies get named in this space, and Evolveum is a pretty unique one. Is there a history or a backstory there that you can tell me how the name Evolveum originated?
Yep. But I don't know this personally, because I entered Evolveum just after, or a few months after. But from what I've heard, the goal was to find something that would characterize us, and at the same time would be unique worldwide, because you have to get .com domain, obviously. So, and this uniqueness was not easy. So Radovan Semanchik, our co-founder and my good friend, created, as he puts it, a short and ugly Perl script to take some names that he deemed reasonable because they characterized us, and combine them in some special ways, and using prefixes, suffixes, and anything else to look if something related is available as a domain name. And so he got a large list of strange or even ridiculous names, but there were some little gems hidden, and one of them was Evolveum. And I like this name very much, because it looks like the name of chemical element related to evolution. And this describes us very well, because evolution is at the heart of our approach to developing software and to deploying software. And many of us, including me, Radovan, Igor, are fans or very passionate about science and technology. So this fits very well.
Pavol, what is the reason that many IGA projects either struggle or fail?
Well, there may be multitude of reasons, many of them common to all substantial IT projects, or even projects in general, like poor business alignment, not having key people on board, inadequate scope control, Big Bang style of deployment, whatever. Well, we try to address some of these issues in our methodology, which is published, but answering this question, I would like to concentrate on two very specific issues or problems that we can address in midPoint as a software product. And these are these two. The first one is data quality. Some HR departments are, I would say, well known for less than ideal data quality, but your IGA deployment just cannot stop because the data is wrong. You have to go on, otherwise you would wait forever. So midPoint is prepared for this by allowing you to mark certain records as temporarily skipped from processing. So even if you have, for example, imagine you have 30,000 of students and 5,000 of 5,000 employees, and some fraction of those employee records are just wrong. So you can select them, and this will be skipped, and let's continue with the others. Okay, this is a software feature that directly addressed this issue of data quality. Okay, and the second thing that we are trying to address is the question of slow application onboarding. Well, it is a well-known fact that there are hundreds or thousands of applications in a typical corporation, and the statistics show that only 10 to 30% of them is actually connected to IGA solution. And the reasons were very nicely mentioned in your recent episode with Indas from RedBlock, which was, well, very interesting, by the way. And those reasons are twofold: time and money. As Inda said, that connecting an application can literally take weeks of effort and can cost, he said, 10 to 20 thousands of dollars, maybe, depending, obviously. So, and we as Evolveum are trying our best to improve the situation here. Well, RedBlock attack the problem through web user interface. We are going in a slightly different way using existing APIs, yes, like REST, Scheme, and database access. But the goal is the same: to dramatically lower the time needed to connect the application. So, in the era of AI, one could ask, what about Claude Code or any agentic AI? What's the matter? Why you just cannot use those things? About 2 or 3 months ago, my very good friend and working for our partner approached me and wrote me, Pavol, we can use Claude Code to generate a connector. Would you like to see that? Of course, I would like. So we arranged a meeting, and he asked me, what system do you want to connect? Internally, we use Open Project. That's a project management tool, open source. And so I told him, please go ahead with Open Project. Okay, he set up his Claude Code. And in 29 minutes, while we were talking and discussing and looking at the screen, like generating unit test, generating application mockup, compiling the code, and etc. So after 29 minutes, the Claude Code said, "Okay, guys, here you are. Here is the connector." Nice. It was, I would say, it was almost working. Some really minor things to fix. It was slightly under 1,500 lines of Java code and a couple of Maven dependencies. Well, that's impressive. It is not conceivable 1 or 2 years before. But the major question is this safe to run in production? You know, you have a jar generated by AI. Is it? Would you give this to your customer and tell them, okay, just run this? Well, I wouldn't, obviously. So what is needed is a review by someone at appropriate level of seniority regarding, first of all, regarding the security of and safety of the code. And what if the interface changes? Well, let's regenerate the code. But again, we need to review it, etc. So our approach is a little bit different. Instead of generating this amount of code, those 1,500 lines, we as Evolveum provide I would say pre-engineered framework, or better said frameworks, but let's talk about REST connector framework. So we provide a framework that is written I would say by hand, but obviously maybe with the use of AI, but in the hands of the senior engineer, with all the respect for security and safety and so on. And then we use large language models to generate just the thin layer above it. So our solution takes the documentation for a system like Open Project, tries to extract the knowledge about what object classes are there, what data are there, then in an interactive process communicates with the engineer sitting behind the keyboard and the screen. What object class would you like to access? What operation do you like to do? Search or create, update, delete, whatever, and then suggests this thin layer of code. And it is much easier to review 3 lines of Groovy than 1,500 lines of Java. So I would say, regarding slow application onboarding, this is what we do. And this is only the technical level. There are then levels like I would say, connecting the application at the data level, classification, correlation, data mappings, and so on. So that's another thing that we also try to solve.
Well, you've got a couple, big ticket items there between data quality and the connection landscape. I mean, those are typically like the big problems, that we see, especially when rolling out identity governance. What are some other interesting features that people should be aware of when it comes to midPoint?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I would say the killer non-functional feature is that it is open source. But let's take that aside for a while and let's talk about the functionality. When I was thinking, what because this question occurs from time to time, so I would like to point out maybe 2 interesting features. One is what we call simulation. It's about predicting what will happen if something is executed, either using current configuration or some changes in configuration. I will give you an example. Imagine that you are connecting a target LDAP directory to your IGA. Yeah. So you have users in IGA and you have existing users in LDAP, and you created some data mappings in good faith. That, for example, email address here is connected to mail attribute there, and so on and so on. Some transformation, maybe, whatever is needed. And now you are preparing for the step that you will run the reconciliation. You will take the data from IGA and push it onto the LDAP. And you can imagine that you feel maybe a little bit uneasy. And there are basically 2 options. One is that you are brave enough and you just hit the button. Yes, do it. And you may come into a situation that 10% of my users cannot log in. Why? The distinguished name has changed, for example, or whatever. You just didn't know that there is a different naming convention or whatever. The data are just different from what you expected. Yeah. And the other option is you could set up a testing LDAP as a copy of your production one and run the first reconciliation not against the real LDAP but against the testing or the staging or whatever you call it. Yeah, and then you, for example, could compare. Either you can take some change log and see what changes were done there, ideally 0. Or you can do some comparison between the test LDAP after reconciliation and your real LDAP. No. And midPoint comes with a special feature that we call simulation, that you could run the simulated reconciliation. Yeah. So the reconciliation runs, but instead of executing the changes on LDAP, it just writes them into special log. I would say it's like audit log, but not real audit log, and then you can view it and ask questions or display buttons or tiles like number of accounts changed, number of accounts renamed, edit, deleted, and so on. And you can even see individual changes that would happen if the reconciliation would be run. So, and you can use this feature for not only for connecting systems as such, but for almost any configuration changes. You can create a change in your configuration, but mark the change as proposed. So it is in the system, but it is ignored by all those production activities. You can use that in special activities you named simulation. So you can, for example, run a complete recomputation of all your users in simulation mode, take those change into account, and again, see what would happen. Okay. So I think this is quite useful because it allows you to go with more bravery than, you know. Okay.
There's nothing wrong with a little bravery and making sure we're not looking off the cliff before we leap. That simulation is pretty unique. I don't know if I've seen too many other players in this kind of space have that ability to say, okay, what if? Usually I say a what if analysis would be like a segregation of duties, type scenario or something like that. But that's a pretty cool feature. I'm curious, like from a architecture standpoint, how does midPoint work? Is this an executable I download and run? Is this something I run in the cloud? Like, tell me a little bit about the architecture.
Okay. It is traditional Java application. We withstood all those fancy, waves of hype technologies like ESB, SOA, microservices, whatever. And we just didn't need that, and we don't need them now. So midPoint is a very simple, it is about 2 million lines of code, but it is a Java application. So you can run it however you need. You can put it into cloud. You can put it onto Kubernetes, for example. You can run that on any hardware capable of running Java, even Raspberry Pi, for example. So you can do whatever you need. So this is from the architectural point of view or from deployment point of view. Yeah. But internally, I'm quite proud of the architecture, to be honest, because from architectural point of view, like data types used or data structures or even features that we use in midPoint, those are extremely stable. So we didn't have to rewrite those parts significantly, only some, I would say, regular code improvements. But from the architectural point of view, these are some limited set of basic objects, some basic mechanisms like archetypes, mappings, policy rules, and whatever, and the value metadata. And this is also, I would say, interesting part of the architecture, and you can match and combine those to create very, very, very interesting features.
What are some of the challenges of maintaining a code base like that? You mentioned, so it's a Java app. You've got, millions of lines of code, and I have to imagine like there is a lot that goes in to maintain that because you're maintaining an open source product, right? There's people all around the world that depend on this to work. So tell me a little bit about some of those challenges.
Okay. It is quite challenging, to be honest. You have to do proper engineering because you are building something that has to last. We just cannot imagine that, for example, we just could throw all that away and hire 100 engineers and rewrite that from scratch. So what you must do looking 1 to 5 years ahead. So you have to have the best software developers available. I must say that hiring into our team is a bit challenging. We cannot just take anyone who applies, but at the same time, the work is then never boring. It is challenging, but never boring. The security is crucial, I would say. The enormous flexibility of the solution can lead to unexpected interactions, and so we have to be very careful here and invest a lot of resources into making sure the product is secure and safe.
So, Pavol, what's the main impact of the product being open source, and what is the differences? What's the main differences between open source and closed source?
Well, I would maybe I would say better about the benefits that comes with being open source. Yeah, and that the benefits are for both our customers or users, so to say, and us. When speaking about the customers or users, the main benefit is the transparency. And so, for example, you have the source code. You can run a wholly independent audit for example, for security and penetration testing, not only black box, but white box penetration testing, whenever you want, in whatever way you want this to do. Yeah. So you can do everything with the code to make sure that yes, this fits our purposes, even from security point of view. Of course, we as Evolveum do some of these tests as well, and even more are planned, but the customers do not need to rely on us to do this. So this is, I would say, the first great benefit. And the second one is, it is always talked about the vendor lock-in. I would say in this world, the vendor lock-in is virtually non-existent. Why? Because imagine that one day Evolveum ceases to exist, just disappears. What would be the effect? Well, the code is still there, no change. All the design documents are there, again, no change. The people, like for example my team, are there as well, probably. Even the company is no longer there. The people are there, and many other people throughout the world that more or less can work with the code are again still there. So there is no problem, no barrier, legal nor technical, to take over the support and future maintenance of the product. It probably won't be easy, but definitely possible. So this one, and the freedom of deployment. Yes, you can take the product and deploy it on whatever hardware, software platform you need, you want. Of course, not everything is supported, but without some limits, you can do that. So, for example, you are not bound to the cloud. There is, what if the cloud doesn't work as expected within a year or two or whatever? No one knows. So it is reasonable to use it, but to have an exit strategy. So I would say this is quite a nice fit. And what is also very nice for our users as well as for us is the community. The feeling that you are not me and you, but we are a community, and this is, I would say, personally, very fantastic feeling. For example, mailing list. Yeah. So we are discussing, somebody has a problem and writes the mailing list, and either somebody from Evolveum, but it is much nicer if somebody from partner, or even from a user that we even didn't know that uses midPoint, answers and helps them, and so on. So people are connected. Or for example, take bug reports or support tickets. Yeah, it is so nice when your user, which you know personally, submits a ticket and provides also the analysis there, that I think the root cause is and look at the line 1, 2, 3, 4 in this class. And even what's even nicer is if they prepare, for example, pull request. So you just look at the pull request. This is okay. is there a test? Yes, there is a test. Okay, just merge and we are done. So it saves an effort, but for me personally, what it brings is some feeling of cooperation, that you have somebody who understands your work and cooperates with you, even if he's from a different company. So this I would say hello to Hiroyuki, hello to Martin, and to any other my friends that cooperate, even if not employees of Evolveum. So, and speaking of community, what is very important for us, and I would like to stress it out, that we started to organize regular midPoint community meetups. The first was 2 years ago and in Copenhagen, and then it was in Bratislava, and this year in May we will hold a midPoint community meetup in May in Prague, in Czech Republic. So all our users, friends, partners, or anyone who is interested in midPoint, please register and go to Prague and visit us. And Jeff and Jeff, you are also welcome. I would be very glad to meet you personally.
I have never been to Prague, but I would be happy to go to Prague. I'll go anywhere at least once, Pavol. And the community is such an important aspect of things. I mean, it's almost kind of like this podcast would be nothing without the community. And, I mentioned I had, awareness of midPoint and Evolveum from years back. And I see midPoint mentioned quite a bit on Reddit. So on identity access management, identity management subreddits, midPoint comes up quite a bit. And, there is, I think, something unique, obviously, around when you have a large community of developers and people who are interested in seeing the product not only work, but get better over time and continue to enhance and meet needs and things like that. I don't think we should undersell that. Right? I think there is, space for all kinds of software in the world, but the open source community, there's this picture on the internet of how the internet works, and it's all these different shapes. And then at the very bottom, this corner that kind of holds around is this little open source tool, right? That community builds and maintains, and somehow the entire internet works because of it.
I know this picture. I like it very much. Yes.
Well, we're almost out of time, but I do want to ask a very important question, because I know you're into nature and other things. And so what I want to understand is whether you are a mountain person or an ocean person. Where would you rather, set up shop and sort of live and habitate?
Thank you very much for this question. Yes, I'm definitely a mountain person. I love mountains. Fortunately for us in Slovakia, we have a lot of beautiful mountains. So there are places that are, honestly, I was like heaven on earth. and yes, so I love mountains. I live currently, my nearest mountains are 30 kilometers away, but that's not so far. So yes,
that's a good bike ride or walk if you're adventurous, or if you're like me, more of a drive to get there. I want to save my energy for being in the mountains and walking around. I don't want to be tired and not be able to enjoy it. So when you say mountains, define mountain. What are we talking about from a altitude or a height perspective?
Okay. Well, the majority of mountains in Slovakia are from 1,000 to 2,000. The highest peak is 2,655. I don't remember exactly, but something like that. We have a well-known mountain range called High Tatras, very visited and so on. But other mountains in Slovakia are also awesome. But the range is, as I said.
So when you say 2,600, you're referring to meters?
Meters, yeah.
Yes,
meters,
okay. And so I have to do math for my American brain. That's about 8,500 feet. Yeah. That's pretty good. I live in the mountains of Western North Carolina in the U.S. For me, So I'm currently at 2,500 feet. So much smaller, about a quarter.
2,500. Okay.
Yeah, about a quarter of that comparison. But I'm the same way. I am more of a mountains person. I like to look at the ocean, but I do not want to be in the ocean, if that makes sense.
The same. The same for me.
Jim, are you a mountain person or an ocean person?
So, okay, with what you just said there, if I take that question and I take a technical viewpoint of it, ocean being the water could be like a rocky beach or something, or I don't know, a boat. There's no way I would do that. But if you're talking like a beach, I'm a beach person over a mountain person. So I kind of figured that's what you meant. But if it came down to like, hey, like the beaches in Maine or Nova Scotia that are all rocky, like that doesn't interest me at all. I'd rather be in the mountains. I'm almost 50-50 between them. So I live in the Black Hills of South Dakota. They call them hills, and they're not mountains like even the Appalachian range that you live in, Jeff. And certainly not 7,500 feet. It's probably like 1,500 feet. They're noticeable. I mean, I grew up in an area that was like an urban area and it was pretty flat. So I do enjoy. The other thing they do here is this used to be like a gold mining area. And so there's a lot of like old gold mining roads, and they open them up that you can ride, they call like side-by-sides or utility vehicles through these roads. And they were like super rough. Like you couldn't drive a car, but if you have a souped up Jeep, you can ride them through there, and people do. That stuff is a lot of fun. I mean, I used to like hiking, but not as much as I like driving things through mountains. But I'm definitely, I think, a beach person. Like if you give me a sandy beach and a cocktail, like now we're talking, man. That's a vacation to me.
But there's sand at the beach, and sand gets everywhere.
Sand gets everywhere. You know, I always, I've actually never been on I was on like one Caribbean vacation, but I actually went to Cancun. So I don't know if most people probably don't count that. But
I count it.
Like,
I mean, that's what I've done.
I'm going to start doing them more, but I think I'm going to be more of a pool person. I think I'll be at the pool and like be in one of those endless pools where you look at the beach. But Denise is a straight up beach person. So I know I'm going to be at the beach.
I don't want to be in the water. It's been decades since I've last swam. There's monsters in the ocean. Not interested. Not at all.
There's definitely monsters. There's sharks. And now with AI, those sharks can be like 25 feet long. And it's scary stuff, man.
Yeah, no kidding. And at some point, probably stub your toe on a data center somewhere underwater.
True enough.
All right, let's go ahead and get this wrap up. Pavol, thank you so much for joining us. Definitely, hopefully, people will be aware more of Evolveum. I think it's, one of those things that people need to be taking a look at. It's another option out there for people to evaluate, enjoy, try. It's one of those things like, hey, try it out, download it, see what you think, put it to the test. Maybe even contribute, to the community and help with either bugs or features and things like that.
Definitely. Yes, exactly. That way.
So I'll have links in our show notes for people to connect with you, Pavol, on LinkedIn if they want to. I'll also have a link to evolveum.com/IDAC. That is EVOLVEUM.com/IDAC for people to check out and better understand kind of what Evolveum does and learn more about midPoint and things like that. Let's see what else. You can connect with Jim and I, of course, on LinkedIn as well. Send us, feedback, ideas for shows, ideas for sponsors. Thanks again to Evolveum for sponsoring this episode. It's sponsors like you, Pavol, that help make this episode and others available, to people around the world. So we definitely appreciate that. And find us on the web, idacpodcast.com. Like, subscribe, share with other like-minded people who are curious about identity or security, whether you like them or whether you don't like them, send it to them because you hate our voices. That works fine too, as long as people are listening. So we'll go ahead and leave it there for this week. Thanks everybody for watching and or listening, and we'll talk with you all in the next one.
You've been listening to Identity at the Center. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit the website at identityatthecenter.com. See you next time on Identity at the Center.